Hi, this is Steve Robbins. Welcome to the Get It Done Guys quick and dirty tips to work less and do more. Today I am here with Amanda Thomas, the domestic CEO, and she's going to give us some hints and some tips for how to get rid of clutter. One of the big ways the clutter gets in the way of productivity is it adds time to everything you do. Because if you have clutter and the clutter is on top of something that you know you need to get to, you have to physically take the clutter. I know this from personal experience, by the way. You have to physically take the clutter, move it somewhere else, get to the thing underneath, and then move the clutter back to where it originally was, or else you'll trip over it. And the problem with this is now what would have been just reaching down to pick something up has become a production where you have to move a bunch of other stuff to get to the thing you want to pick up. Doesn't sound like much. If it takes you an extra 5 or 6 seconds, or it'll actually take a little more than that, 20 or 30 seconds, depending upon how much you have to move and how much looking you have to do. And let's say you have to do that 10 times a day. That's 5 minutes a day times 250 work days a year. And all of a sudden, what you just discovered is that you've just spent an entire day doing nothing. And that's just one delay of 5 to 30 seconds. Now add to that every now and then you're going to need something that you don't have a home for. You had just stuck it in a pile somewhere. And you're going to have to dig through tons and tons of piles and your zombie world domination plans and your plans to take over the world thread market. And here's the stock market collapse that you were engineering. And you have to go through all this stuff in order to find that all-important glasses cleaning cloth you need to do so you can see your screen to work on all of your nefarious plans. And again, I'm speaking from personal experience here. And what that means is that a task that should have taken you 5 seconds, which is reaching out for a glasses cleaning cloth, instead just took you 10 minutes and created that much more clutter. So clutter is really a danger. It makes things take longer, and some things it makes take a lot longer. And in the process of taking longer, it creates more clutter that will later get in the way of other things.
So it sounds like it's a pretty big cycle is what you're saying. And by the way, I know nothing of what you're talking about. I mean, I have no clutter around this place at all. Wouldn't that be great?
For those of you who are listening who don't know this, we're doing this as a video conference. I'm actually sitting here with a glasses cleaning cloth, cleaning my glasses. And Amanda is sitting in a spotless white room with every hair in place, looking absolutely perfectly composed, except for the fact that the jacket hanging on the back of her chair is slightly asymmetric. So I believe her stories about tons and tons of clutter.
Well, truth be told, I moved the stacking or the stacking files from behind my desk, so you wouldn't have to look at those the entire time. So,
all right,
I can put them back if it'll make you feel better because they are a mess.
That's well, the other thing the other way the clutter gets in the way of productivity is it literally creates mental clutter. Because if you walk into a room and everything is chaotic, it's distracting. If you see something you have to deal with, even if it's not what you have to deal with right now, some part of your brain is going to go, oh, right, I've still got to deal with that thing. That, is that an IRS audit notice? Whatever. But, I have this other thing and then this other thing. So just the mere visual presence of all of this stuff reminds you of it every time you look at it and causes your brain to have to switch modes, even if just a little bitty bit. And I know for me, there's a really distinctly different feeling to walking into a clean office versus walking into an office that has lots of stuff all over it.
Absolutely. Well, and even when you're preparing meals at home or you're doing anything at home. So if you open the fridge and you go, I need cream, and you look at that every time you open the fridge, how many times do you forget what you were actually going into the fridge for? Or you see something, I need to clean that out. I forgot those leftovers are still in there. Every time you look at that, you get distracted from what you're supposed to be doing. And it's like that syndrome of where you have a thought and then you walk into another room and you completely forget what you were going to be doing. And then you have to walk back to the original room to remember what it was and go back and forth. And yeah, it happens all the time.
So you know what? I'm going to take this a little bit further here and say not only is it your physical desktop that is worth keeping clean, but your computer desktop too. Because the same thing happens with computers and even just with open windows. If I have 5 windows open and they're overlapping, but if a little bit of my mail window is visible to the left of my word processor and I'm working on a word processing document and I look over and notice that I can just see the from line of an incoming email and it's from somebody who is important to me, well, all of a sudden now I'm just going to take a second, just one little second to leave my word processing document and check the email. And how long is it going to take me until I get back to the email? Because as long as I'm checking email, well, there's Facebook. I mean, maybe someone left me a Facebook message too. And
you have to see if anybody liked your status.
Oh, God, yes. What if they didn't?
I know, exactly.
I'm a failure. So clutter gets in the way of productivity by distracting you, by making things take longer. And it's not just physical clutter, it's also electronic clutter that can have the exact same effect.
Now, when we were talking earlier, you were telling me this example about paper clips and coins at your house and how it was these little things that were driving you nuts. Can you tell our listeners about what you had to do to really make that clutter go away?
Sure. I noticed that a big chunk of my clutter that would start things was these teeny tiny little things, like me taking the change out of my pocket and putting it on a side table, but then forgetting to collect it later. And I would have lots of little objects. And the ones we talked about earlier were coins and paper clips. And the sound that you are hearing right now is me bouncing a bag of paper clips up and down. Finally said, I need to create a place for these. So when I find them around the house or when I have them in my hand, I know where to put them. So it's not just put them on the nearest surface. And I just got a Ziploc bag. That's where all of my paper clips go. For coins, I have a real live coin purse. I mean, what guy carries a coin purse? The answer is me. Why? So that I can keep all of my coins off of my surfaces in the coin purse. And then the thing that I didn't tell you also gets everywhere is pens, because I'm the get it done guy and I'm a total stationery supply freak. So I have pens everywhere. I buy them by the case. And there is a place in their kitchen for all the pens. So whenever there is a pen that gets loose somewhere in the kitchen, it goes right on top of the refrigerator where the pen pile is. If a pen gets loose in my office, it goes right in the pen holder. And they used to just go wherever. And then finally I was like, no, these one tiny pen becomes the center of a growing pile of clutter if I'm not careful. So At this point, pens, paper clips, and coins. Those are my things. Chapstick in the wintertime, but
Yeah, it's those little things. And, I try to coach our Moxie Girl clients. If we're coming in to help them with organizing, I try to teach them to have a home for it wherever it already naturally collects. So a lot of our clients have kids and they have a lot of little things, action figures and small toys that migrate from the toy room into the kitchen or into the living room, wherever they're not supposed to be. And you can either fight that or you can go, well, this is going to happen because this is where my kids bring it and it just naturally falls. So what we do is, for most of our clients, is have a basket of things that don't belong in this room or things that need to be put away. And so that way they can take those little things when they start to drop, whether it's their kids or their own stuff, and just put it in that basket. And that is its home until it goes back to its permanent home. So I think that's a big thing with clutter, is that things just don't have a home. And sometimes you don't want to have a basket sitting on your counter that's for things that don't belong in that room. But if it's happening already, just give those items a home. And so you know what to do with them and where to find them when it's time to deal with them.
Absolutely. You can even do that in an office. I know one of the things that I do when I am working out of an office in a larger organization, and I normally am self-employed, but sometimes I've worked on-site places, is I put a box by the office door, which is stuff that needs to go elsewhere. And so if there's a report that I have to drop by someone's office, or if I borrowed a book or something like that, instead of going and returning it at the moment that I'm done using it, which might interrupt me or interrupt them or whatever, I just put it in that box. And then when I'm ready to temporarily leave my space for a little while, I'm like, okay, I've got to return this report to Len. I have to run this thing down to marketing. I have to take this other thing over to the administration building. And that way it all becomes one errand as opposed to becoming 3 separate errands. That takes a lot more time. Although the 3 separate errands would be a better workout. So we'd have to consult Get Fit guy Ben Greenfield to find out whether or not.
Have to weigh those things out, see which one's more important. Depends on the day, probably.
Yes. Well, Amanda, thank you for all that. And I'm afraid we have to go now, but you can come back and we will finish this in a later episode. This has been Steve Robbins. You can email questions and comments to getitdone@quickanddirtytips.com. I mentor people in building strong, powerful businesses, organizations, and lives. If you want to know more, visit steverobbins.com. That's STEVERROBBINS.com. Work less, do more, and have a great life.